Hi, everybody. This is Tracy, and in my series on experts that I am bringing to you to learn about the patterns of relationships, the situations that we've gotten ourselves into, today I have a very special guest, Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. She has been doing relationship consulting, mediation. She's a speaker and author of, I think, 16 books, including Escaping from the Hijackal Trap. And that's crazy making. She's got all these amazing books and insights and strategies that we need to reclaim hope, to reclaim confidence, and very often to reclaim your sanity. When you're dealing with the constant uncertainty and jaw-dropping behaviors of a narcissist, whether it's at home or at work, you need someone that's going to be on your side. And she has been helping partners and couples as well as individual people for so many years. And we're going to talk with her today about a topic that everyone wants to know about: co-parenting with a narcissist. Well, I'm giving you a little heads up here. She doesn't call them narcissists. She calls them hijackals. and we'll explain that coming up. But when we're co-parenting with a narcissist, we need help. We don't know where to start, and we don't know the battles we're going to encounter. So let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, and let's talk about co-parenting with a narcissist, or hijackal in her words. Welcome, Rhoberta.
It's my pleasure, Tracy. It's always great to bring great information to people who might not know what's really going on.
That's true. And I want to warm up my audience. And even though I just did an introduction about you, I hear that you were called the Relationship Help Doctor. How'd you get started doing this?
Oh, it's a very long story because I've been doing it a very long time. But I was in medicine. I was going into medicine. And just before I went to my first year of medical school, I found out that I was pregnant and not married, and came from a hijackal family. But of course, at that time, I didn't know. So I switched into psychology, and I took my doctorate in psychology instead so that I could make my own hours. And that was fine with me because my gift is diagnosing and really being able to figure out what's going on and to help people. So it was a perfect shift. And so I've worked in this field for 34 years. And I've specialized in conflict the majority of that time. And slowly, as I really began to understand not until my late 30s, but it really happened to me because then there were no people who really understood what was going on in what I call a hijackal family. And so we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as we talk about hijackals. But then I was able to refine my practice to really helping the people who are caught in these situations, which is why one of my books is called Escaping the Hijackal Trap.
Wow. And you know, my channel deals with narcissistic abused people, but you call them hijackals. So you want to explain that to us? Because like right from the start, they're probably going, what's a hijackal?
Yes, I hope they are. The reason I created the term and trademarked the term hijackals is because too many people I found were going to the Google goddess and they were saying, my partner does this. And the Google goddess, who, remember, has no credentials, spit back narcissism, sociopath, psychopath, avoidant, borderline, all these words. And so those are clinical diagnoses that, of course, there's no right to have a diagnosis unless you've seen someone who can do that. But the thing that I found people were looking for is, what's happening to me? So I wanted a non-clinical term that described the traits and the cycles and the patterns that people were experiencing. So hijackals is that term. And all hijackals, no matter what they may have as a diagnosis, all hijackals drink from the same pool of traits. So we're quite safe talking about hijackal traits, patterns, and cycles.
Wow. So what are some of the characteristics?
Oh, well, your listeners, if they've tuned in, probably will go, yes, as I mentioned a few of them. One of them that you will always notice is this overwhelming need to win, even in situations that don't matter, like where we're going to dinner, whether or not we're going to see the children's play, and now in the big things too. So the overwhelming need to win, because a hijackal is a fearful, fearful, fearful person. And they come across as no fear at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're very fearful and they need that power and control. The definition of a hijackal, Tracy, is a person who hijacks a relationship for their own purposes and then scavenges it daily for power, status, and control. So that need to win is absolutely huge. Another thing that a hijackal does is have out of proportion emotions. So you're discussing the weather, and all of a sudden they go off like a Roman candle. Who made you the arbiter of the weather? And all you're like, weren't we just deciding whether it was a good enough day to have a picnic?
Mm-hmm.
So there are 10 of them. I'll give you one other
Okay.
that I think will be very familiar, which is what we call all or nothing or black or white thinking. And that's when you are the absolute best thing since sliced bread in one moment. And in the next moment, you are the scum of the earth and they don't know why they bother with you. So it's a flip-flop all the time to keep you in uncertainty and chaos. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't know where you stand. So I would imagine there's a listener or two who's going, oh, yes.
Oh yes, I know that world, and I've read your how to spot a hijackal thing that we'll talk about later. But in looking at it, it is pretty much the manual for any diagnosis that people are coming here thinking their person has. I always tell them it doesn't matter what you call them, because they'll get on and go, "Are they a narcissist? Are they a
Yeah,
narcissist?" And
it
I'm
doesn't
like,
matter.
if they're treating you shitty, what does it matter what the label is? It's
Yeah,
about
abuse is
getting
abuse.
out and protecting yourself.
Yeah, and the whole thing about the label is just to explain it from a psychological point of view. If you go in the DSM-5, here's what you'll find. You'll have this list of traits. Like I say, all hijackals drink from the same pool of traits. And they'll say, if the person had, then this is for the professional to know, if the person has these traits in this combination and this frequency, it's that label. Rearrange the traits, not these ones, but those ones, is that label. So it's all the same pool. So it
Mm.
really, you're absolutely right, Tracy. It doesn't matter. Let's just call them hijackals because that's the way they behave.
Exactly. They hijack it all. So I'm so glad that you informed us and brought us up on that, because really that's the beginning and the basis of all of your work. And I so appreciate what you do. You've written 16 books already, right?
I have.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, I'm fortunate that it comes very easily to me. I know some people just don't have that opportunity to just sit down and write a book, but I happen to be fortunate in that way.
Yeah, you're blessed. I can make a really good chocolate pudding or something, but the writing, that's. But today we are here to talk about co-parenting with a hijackal.
Good.
And all of the people that I talk to come to my Facebook group or my in-person groups that are trying to co-parent. They have so many challenges. And what are the challenges of co-parenting with these hijackals?
Well, far too often, and we need to talk a little bit about the court system and things too here, but far too often, what we're going to see when you divorce a hijackal is that you're going to see all the things that you didn't like be amped up on steroids.
Mm.
So the need to win. Always remember this, and if people want more information, go to hijackals.com and look at all the graphics there, because I've made graphics to help people understand each of the different things that you can see. And one of them says, sadly enough, hijackals do not have love to give you. They have uses for you.
Wow.
So this is going to be what shows up when you get into the co-parenting. And I'll give you a story, which unfortunately, trigger alert if this kind of thing really could set you off. But I had a client who was in relationship with a woman who was previously with a hijackal. And so they were divorced. They had 2 children in their, they were 10 and 12 or something. And I was working with the woman, telling her what she needed to do to make sure that the co-parenting went well without interference. And
Mm-hmm.
the guy was just wanting more and more custody and more. He was constantly taking her to court over and over and over and harassing her and stalking her. And I just begun to work with her. I'd worked with her maybe 4 times. And I opened up the newspaper one morning. There's a photograph. And the husband, with all this concern about having the children more and everything, he walked into where she worked, shot her between the eyes, shot himself, and the children were orphans. That's a prime example of just having a use for the children, to
Mm-hmm.
harass her, to have a reason to be in her face all the time. He didn't care about the children. Look, he left them orphans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important, and I hope that's not too shocking for your audience, because
No,
it
I think
doesn't
they need to
happen often.
hear. Yeah.
But you need to know that this is a prime example. That other person, the hijackal, only wants to win. They do not have the children's best interest at heart in most cases. I have to put that caveat in. And then they will do anything to have power over you. If they can keep you poor because they're taking you to court all the time, if they can alienate the children by telling them untruths about you, they will do anything to win. So once they have been spurned and set aside, even if they walked out because they were having an affair, it will be your fault. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the laughter, I am not finding this funny. It is dark shadow laughter. This is ugly stuff. But they will have been very, very angry with you because they felt you walked out on them. They did not win.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to win somehow. And often it's through the co-parenting situation.
Yeah. And the court systems, the battle that most survivors have to go through, it doesn't end. It doesn't end for 18 years till the kids are done.
That's right.
Just torture and torture and torture you. And that only affects the children. And it's so sad for me.
It is sad. It's sad for me too, and what I tell my clients, and I have clients all over the world because I work just like you and I are talking, and it happens all over the world, is remember that when you go to court, the court is seeing a snapshot. That moment, what's said, who stands where, who looks how, who's dressed in which way. And it all depends on whether they got out of bed, the judge got out of bed on the right side, or is too late for the golf game, or whatever is happening. That snapshot is what they see. And you're longing for them to see the video.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all of this that points out what I'm saying. And they see that quick snapshot and they have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And they mostly don't make great decisions.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because a hijackal will hire a hijackal attorney. In fact, they will fire attorneys until they get a hijackal attorney.
Wow.
And so therefore, we're going to have the posturing, the charm, the manipulation, the exploitation, and the seduction in that snapshot in court.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here because
No.
everybody who's been to court knows this, but that's the beginning of the adversarial process, and it begins to be used to hit you over the head with it and take everything you have, including your self-esteem and your money and your time.
And your kids.
And your kids, and that's how they have power over you still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that a lot of people in court want that judge to see them. They want to shout from the rooftop, wait, you don't understand this, but what happens is if they lose their calm, and that's your lawyer's responsibility to just don't show emotion, don't be reactive, because if that judge can see you as the crazy one because you're going, that didn't happen, then you look like a crazy one. So listen to your lawyers and be the calm one. Go home and cry, but don't let it come out in court, because that small snapshot is so important, right?
Well, the old program Dragnet.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to court, it's just the facts, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's where you want to keep yourself. Like, I'm only going to speak about facts. I'm going to go in with my documentation this high, right? On this day, this happened. On that day, that happened. Even if the court never looks at it, they'll flip through it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at all those times that he didn't bring the children back, or she refused to come and get them when she was supposed to, and now she's here complaining that she's not getting enough time with the children. Every little thing has to be documented. Documentation is your friend. You have to be the best secretary your attorney ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're paying the attorney and you don't think you should have to do the work, but you do, because you're the only one who's an expert on your case.
Right.
And so it's very important for you to do just what you said. Go in and be as non-emotional as possible without appearing to be a zombie. I mean, you're a real person.
The zombie.
You have pain, and I'm not suggesting you don't do that, but don't go into the histrionics. Don't be crying. If it naturally happens, don't feel badly, but do go with the idea of just the facts, ma'am, because the facts are incontrovertible.
Mm-hmm.
You have them written down.
Yeah.
Document everything
Mm-hmm.
so that you can prove your point. Here, in these 15 times, this happened on these dates. That's where you're powerful.
Yeah, that's the facts, and that's really important. I know that I was not, when I was going through my divorce with my hijackal, I was not fighting over children. My son was not his, so that didn't come in, but he was trying every single trick and the whole thing, and I did remain calm. But one day they got me on the stand. I had 7 trials, and they got me on the stand, and I just sat there like this. And I was basically scratching my face with my finger, and his lawyer stood up and he was screaming and screaming, and I was just like,
hijackal,
scratching my face. That was like the worst thing I ever did. I was like, I just felt like I could do that, but it wasn't really a smart thing to do. It didn't hurt my case, but it certainly felt better because I had to play this, law abiding. I'm the one with the papers. I'm the one with the
the wronged one. Yeah,
exactly. And then I just sat there and I, kind of blew it with the finger, but I'm not saying people should do that.
You didn't blow it. Let me just put your mind at ease. You're human and you're allowed to do things. Mm-hmm. We don't want to go in and pretend to be somebody we're not. So for everybody listening, what we're really encouraging you to do is to go in with the facts top of mind. Mm-hmm. And don't worry, you're going to have feelings. Of course you have feelings, but don't lead with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, the hardest part for parents is when the emotionally hijackal bad person creates a war zone, and you're trying to do everything you were supposed to do. You're not turning the kids against them. You're doing everything that you're not supposed to do to your children. You're not supposed to.
I hope you're not doing what you're not supposed to be doing.
Exactly. But then when you get the kids back and the other person is doing everything wrong, they're using their children, they're hurting the children. How does somebody combat that when they're being, staying high and they're going low? How do you deal with that?
I know that's the most horrible feeling, because you just want to get into the ring and play too, and it doesn't work for you. So here's how. First of all, that pile of documentation, that's your friend, mm-hmm. right? And just make sure you write down everything as it happens. Keep a spreadsheet of dates and times. And then when you're there, concentrate on that, that when you're in court, when you're thinking about this partner, concentrate on the facts. Then when they do things that are absolutely what they're not supposed to be doing, I don't think there's a divorce decree anywhere that does not say something to the effect of the parties will not speak poorly of the other party in the presence of the children. Mm-hmm. And yet you get reports all the time that, well, dad said this about you, or mom says you're always, mm-hmm. and you want to go rushing to court and say, but yes, it says here that they can't do that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do is do your own work. When someone comes to me, Tracy, and they say, what should I do? Should I leave? Should I stay? What should I do? I say, unless there's physical or sexual abuse, do your own work first.
Mm.
There are reasons why you were hijackal bait. There are reasons why this was an attractive relationship to you. There are reasons why you were attracted to the other person. So you don't want to go there again, and you've been worn down and torn down. You're exhausted, emotionally exhausted, if not exhausted in every other way. So do your own work first. Learn what your rights are. We have 7 inalienable rights in life, and many people who are hijackal bait are not really understanding and standing on those rights. They've kind of given them up. And so you have to do some work to get yourself back, to find out what your values, your vision for your life is, your beliefs are, your goals, your challenges, what you want in life. And you want to leave the relationship empowered if you can.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people who have not left yet, that would be a really good piece of advice. But if you're already in court fighting over the children, continue to do your work, because you need to be that empowered person. You need to have gone from pain-filled to powerful,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that takes work. That's not chatting with your friends about ain't it awful and she done me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually doing the work.
Yeah.
So that then when these things happen, you have some equanimity. You can go and say, oh yeah, that's the way the partner behaves. I don't like it. I don't like it for these reasons. All I can be is the neutralizing force and tell the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can say to my child, oh yes, some people see things differently. At our house, we do this, or this is the way you and I know that it happened. Whatever, as long as it's accurate
Mm-hmm.
and that you're painting the picture in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's lots of pain. I have Facebook groups for people to come and join, and they can find them. But one of them is called Alienated by Love. And that's for grandparents and parents who have been alienated away from the children and wanting to know, how can I take some steps to get back? Because this will occur. Imagine if somebody has a need to win, they are going to see it as a huge win to alienate the children.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They don't want them. Remember that horrible case of the 2
Mm-hmm.
children who became orphans? They don't want them. They don't want you to have them.
Yeah. They just want to create as much pain. And if you are identifying that this is important to you, the children, that's where they're going to attack you. And it happens so often. I wish the court systems could see some of these behaviors and we could all have a little bit easier time. But they're so cunning and they lie in the courts and they're
Oh, yeah.
charming. And the judge goes, I don't see this kind of behavior here.
No, I mean, they're the ultimate actors.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then what you were saying about the case that you were involved in, the lawyer's going ballistic. You see, there's the hijackal attorney going ballistic on behalf of his ballistic client.
Mm-hmm.
And so the posturing and the gesturing and the, oh, this woman is so infuriating and she's terrible. Look at that. She's scratching her face. How disrespectful is that? They put everything out of proportion, as I said earlier. So in the co-parenting situation, this need to win really pulls out as a very strong thing. I am the good parent. The other parent is toast. I am the one who gives you everything. What we do is right here. Even when they're abusing the children, they will do that.
Mm. That is.
And I wish that I could say that there is a solution that always works. There is not. But one of the things that I do know that works, I'll tell you a story about a couple that I worked with. This often happens. Someone are in a couple, they find me, they say, can we work together? And I say, let's work with you and your partner. And they come to work with me because, of course, the hijacker believes that they are going to be able to pull the wool over my eyes, get me on their side, manipulate and charm me into believing that there's something wrong with their partner. And that happens many times in the therapeutic situation because people aren't used to seeing these patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had clients who have been to 6 or 7 professionals, and they come to me and they say, finally, someone sees what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But this manipulation of the way that the picture is presented is really, really something that you can't do a whole lot about. But here's the case. This couple came in. The fellow was posturing like crazy, doing everything he could. And they came in like this, on the screen. And they were on separate computers and separate homes. And they came in and he was doing everything he could to show me that he was right and she was wrong, but he was such a good guy and all. And of course, I stuck with it. And they stuck with it for 2 or 3 sessions, which is the way it works, which is why I work in packages of 15 sessions. And then when I said something to him about, well, how do you think that you played a role in what happened that day? Of course, he blew up, absolutely blew up, walked out, never to return again. So then, because the package was in place, I continued to work with the woman. And so I went to court on her behalf a couple of times. And she said, what am I going to do? Everything that he says is false. It's always wrong. He's got money hidden in another country, all the things that go with it. So I said, well, he will implode. They take longer sometimes, but he will implode. If you can hang in and keep going to court, he will implode. And eventually she was living in her car because of all the lies that were being told. But she called me one day and she said, you are absolutely right. He absolutely lost it in court. The judge saw him for who he is. Now he's being charged with contempt, with perjury, with money laundering, and he's going to be deported when he gets out of jail.
Wow.
Oh, but you had to wait so long. So I'm telling that story because if you take the high ground and you just stay where you can, and I don't mean the moral high ground like I'm better than you, just I know the situation, I know I'm telling the truth, I'm getting some help, and I've worked through what I'm doing, and I will keep the being in this good place. I know I can't do anything about all the lies and alienation that's happening on the other side, but I can do everything I can in my power while I have my child with me to give the child the experience I want them to have without polarizing them and putting them against the other half of their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And, Tracy, this brings up another point that is very important when you're thinking about getting a divorce. This is why I tell people to do their own work first, because every case is different, but when you're deciding to get a divorce, here's a question that you have to be able to answer. If I leave this person, while I'm with them, I can see and hear everything they do and say to the children. When I leave them, they are going to have private time, perhaps 50 or 60% private time, where I don't know what they're saying or doing with the children. How do I work that out? How do I calibrate that? How do I figure that out for me?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to happen. And different ages of the children are going through different parts of brain growth. And each case we have to work out. So if you're in the situation and you're thinking of leaving, get some really good help to figure out what's going on for you, what you actually can change, what you can put up with for the sake of the children, not being over there alone and you don't know what's happening to them. And if you already are out of the situation, then keep the idea of, I am going to provide the ideal situation I can provide emotionally for my children when they're with me. I cannot do anything about the other side. I cannot change them. I couldn't change them when I was with them, and I can't change them now. So I will just counteract that with being my best self.
Mm-hmm.
And I will help them debrief anything that they want to talk about. And I will not interrogate them. But I will spend quality time with them so that conversations arise And then I have the opportunity of saying, well, how did that make you feel? What went on? Was that okay with you? Oh, I don't know. That sounds kind of funny to me, but it's always up to you. You know, the way that you have conversations with your children, depending on their ages.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so important in the co-parenting. And if you have little children, you know, distance is your greatest friend. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you can move to the other side of the county, you know, whatever your divorce decree says about going out of the state or whatever, think about distance, because hijackals lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not convenient, they lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they get new supply, they're going to go over and take a time out from their children and deal with the new supply. At that time, then you get more time with your children. Use that time wisely. Use that time to build your family values, that build the family experiences. Give the children a strong place to come home to, because, of course, the supply will lose its interest. All hijackals like bright, shiny objects that still believe they're the best thing since sliced bread. So while that's going on, you know, work with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Do memory building things with your children. You know, take them to the swimming hole. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but do things that allow them to feel grounded with you.
Right.
Right.
And building that really good sense of family, even though it's different. You're not like, I have a lot of friends that the kids go off to mommy or daddy's house and daddy ignores them. Daddy's
Right.
just like, you guys do your homework, I'll be back in an hour. If you're not creating that at home and you're creating this, let's go for a hike today, let's plan something on Saturday, and you're the one at the soccer games, they're going to remember those memories of you being there for them are going to be part of the psyche as they like navigate this two home situation.
Yeah, and also remember brain growth. You know, I'm sure that you've spoken about that on your program, but we're born with undeveloped brains,
Mm-hmm.
and things get implanted in there way earlier than most people think, especially in the first 2 years. In fact, if you're going to become a hijackal, it's highly likely that that's when it happened to you.
Wow.
Yeah. So here you think that they're this blob, you know, sitting there that require everybody to take care of them, but they are sensory machines. They are taking everything in. How do I fit? How do I please them? How do I keep the giants happy so they'll feed me? I mean, they're very, very sophisticated little machines. However, we forget that not until they're about 6, 7, around there, that the development of the prefrontal lobes occurs. When that occurs, those are the centers for rational linear thought. Up until then, they have been running on their feelings. And
Mm.
little children believe that they cause everything. You know, I had 2 little children in my office, and their dad had moved out, and the mom wanted me to talk to them, you know, see what they were thinking. And I knew the children well because I'd worked with the family while they were going through this separation. And so I said to the girls, one was 7, one was 5. I said, do you know why daddy lives in another house? And the 5-year-old said, oh, I do. I left my bicycle behind daddy's car.
Mm.
That's how the 5-year-old mind thinks. I caused things. I made them happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything goes out from me. So the 7-year-old had the beginnings of this, and she went, oh, no, that's not why, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the little one did not have that. So we have to recognize brain development, what the children are taking in long before they have language, and then as they start to have language.
Mm-hmm.
Because think of a baby. A baby knows who to smile at. A baby
Mm-hmm.
will turn away from somebody they don't think is safe, right?
Right.
And so learning for them starts the minute that they draw breath. In fact, it starts before that. So it's important for us to realize what stage our children are at. You know, there are times in life where it's really worse for a child to be separated from a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And those times, they're not the times that we want to be separating. So if you have the opportunity of creating your divorce in a very thoughtful manner, that you're not running away from physical or sexual abuse, then take the time to do it and walk with somebody who can help you through it, so that when you get to the co-parenting part, you've laid down the pieces that help you understand fully what you can do and what you can't do, and where you can have influence and where you just need to go. This is a parallel parenting, not a co-parenting situation.
Mm.
And a parallel parenting situation is when you say, okay, this house is parallel to this house. Over there, they do that. At my house, they do this. I have no jurisdiction over here. I just do the best I can over here. And that's the way I leave it, rather than trying to get the hijackal parent, to do what they are supposed to do or agreed to do or said they valued.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, sometimes you just have to go to the parallel parenting model and do your very best to provide the best house ever and leave the other parent out of the conversation.
I actually have not heard the parallel parenting thing, but it's so true. That was brilliant. Thank you. I know that hijackals like to hijack special events,
Oh, yeah, they do.
birthdays and holidays and vacations. And I often tell the people that I talk with that planning how they might react takes away their power, because they don't push that emotional button. If the holiday's coming, you can think, well, they might do this, they might do that.
Mm-hmm.
And by thinking it through and how you're going to react, you're so much more prepared. And the fight and the angst inside of you isn't as bad. If you go in there and you think they're going to be normal at a birthday party and they let you down, then they've just ruined the party for you. But if you
Exactly.
hold on to that and go, what can I expect?
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of brush it away. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, I have a lot to say about that, you could guess.
I'm so glad.
Celebrations are a perfect opportunity to draw attention to yourself. And that's what a hijackal is going to do. So whether they attend and blow it up, or they refuse to attend and spend a whole lot of time making you miserable because they're not coming, they will do it. And remember, they need to be the center of attention. So if they're not, it's your birthday, then they're going to somehow create drama and take that away from you. In fact, I have so many cases, and it's very sad that I have these cases where people's parties have been completely ruined. Maybe a celebration for something, a real milestone in their life, a career high, or a fabulous thing that happened to them, or an award they received. And yet they're so hooked into their hijackal that what the hijackal did took all the juice out of the joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for us to realize that a hijackal is going to usurp any energy they can. That's why we call them energy vampires. So it's important to recognize that their need is always paramount to them. So when you're planning an event, do exactly what you said. Realize, okay, what's this person likely to do? You know, they're going to say they're not going to come. They're going to ask me to change the date. They're going to say that they prefer a different venue. They're going to come and blow up things. They're going to tell stories that are not true. They're going to bring an inappropriate gift. They will do anything because hijackals are fiercely competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They're competitive for the airspace, for the attention, for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are going to upstage a celebration either by attending or not attending, but they will upstage it. And then they will tell an entirely different story about the event after it.
Mm.
So you're so right. You
Yeah.
have to do your inner work where you can. Your future pacing inner work. That's what I call it. Like, what's likely to happen? What do I know about the person's behavior? Okay, what will I do in that case? I will just say, oh, that's predictable. It has nothing to do with me. That's on them. And if you do that work prior, you will save yourself a lot of heartache.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that, because um, it's just something that we should expect. It's,
Yes.
to expect it to be normal is kind of fooling yourself. And when you expect it to be normal and it doesn't show up that way, what happens? We get crushed, and let's say they bring their new girlfriend or their new boyfriend, and like that's completely inappropriate. But if you've thought that through and said, okay, best friend, if he comes with a new supply, can you be my decoy? Can you just think that through? What can you do if something like that happens? Because it's going to take a little bit of the anxiety out of it by being
Yes,
prepared.
because it gives you a sense of control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the hijackal is set on taking away from you.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that you can do to control your environment and preset it to work for you, the wiser you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this has been an amazing video. Thank you so much. It will be a podcast as well. And I believe you have an offer for our members, right?
I do. I have a couple of things, Tracy. One of them is the ebook you're holding up there. If you go to hijackals.com, you can get the ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. And that will be your entry point into sitting there going, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, how did she know?
Mm-hmm.
So that will help you calibrate if you are with a hijackal. Because there is a difference between being with a self-centered person and being with a hijackal, and you have to know the difference.
Okay.
And then you go on and read my other ebook, Escaping the Hijackal Trap. It's only $3.99 on Amazon, but it will show you what you need to get away from, whether that's physically or emotionally, what you need to distance yourself from.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are many things. There's also my passive aggressive checklist. So all hijackals are passive aggressive, but not all passive aggressive people are hijackals. So if you want to make a determination, am I with a passive aggressive person only, then go to passiveaggressivechecklist.com. No dashes, just passiveaggressivechecklist.com and check that one out. It's a very in-depth thing. And of course, I'm always here and I offer free consultation for people who want to talk to me about whether or not we can work together. And you can find that at my website at forrelationshiphelp.com, Work with Dr. Shaler tab.
We are going to put all the links down below, and you all should be taking her up on this information. I read the first one, How to Spot a Hijackal, but I'm going to get the other one later today and also read that. She's been a brilliant guest, and she is a brilliant, loving, kind person, and her heart is with helping survivors get through this. And I am so blessed to have her here. We are lucky that she was willing to talk with us because she has so much experience. And I want to get you to the professionals that can help you. So call her. She does these Skype sessions and she can help you get through whatever you're dealing with your hijackal.
Yes, thank you for that. And what you're doing, Tracy, is so important. When you shed light on people's pain and tell them, I know what you're going through, and this is what it looks like, and this is what you can do about it. So valuable. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. And we'll have you back again soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.